Welcome back, and thank you for joining me for what can only be described as one of the most dramatic and politically charged developments in modern UK history. The House of Commons has just witnessed an eruption unlike anything seen in decades, and the man at the centre of it all is none other than Nigel Farage, in a move that is already being described as historic. Farage and his political movement have managed to oust Labour in what is being called a full-scale voter revolt, sending shockwaves through Westminster, rattling the political establishment and igniting debates that could reshape the future of British politics for years to come. The atmosphere in the Commons was tense, volatile and electric, with MPs shouting across the chamber, the Speaker struggling to maintain order, and Labour's front bench looking visibly shaken as the reality of their stunning defeat began to sink in. This isn't just about one seat changing hands, it's about a deep seismic shift in the political loyalties of the British electorate, and it's a warning sign to both Labour and the Conservatives that the days of comfortable two-party dominance might finally be over. From the moment Farage walked into the Commons, flanked by newly elected MPs, it was clear that this was not going to be a normal day in Parliament. Journalists had already been tipped off about the scale of the upset, but even seasoned political commentators were taken aback by the ferocity of the reaction from both sides of the political spectrum. On the Labour benches, you could see the frustration boiling over, with several MPs angrily muttering about populism and dangerous rhetoric, while on the other side of the chamber, Farage's allies were grinning ear to ear, clearly relishing the fact that their campaign had not only worked, but had smashed through traditional voting patterns. In the public galleries, bursts of applause and cheers could be heard from supporters who had made the journey to witness this moment in person. The symbolism of this event cannot be overstated. Farage, the political outsider for most of his career, walking into the very heart of the establishment, not as a fringe voice, but as a man with the voter mandate to shake things up. The revolt itself has been building for months, if not years. Discontent with Labour's policies, particularly on immigration, economic management, and the perceived erosion of national sovereignty, has been growing among working-class voters who once formed the backbone of Labour's support. Farage tapped into that dissatisfaction with relentless energy, visiting towns and cities that the mainstream parties had largely ignored, holding rallies that drew massive crowds, and hammering home a message that resonated with people who felt abandoned by the political elite.
His rhetoric, often blunt and unapologetic, spoke directly to the frustrations of ordinary Britons dealing with rising costs, overburdened public services, and a sense that the government, whichever party was in power, wasn't listening. And while Labour leaders dismissed him as a rabble-rouser, the results at the ballot box proved otherwise. This wasn't just a protest vote. This was a decisive statement from voters that they were ready for a different kind of politics. Inside the Commons, the tension reached boiling point when Farage rose to speak for the first time following the announcement of the election result. The Speaker called for order, but the noise was deafening. Labour MPs jeered. Some banged on their desks in frustration, while others sat in stony silence. Farage, never one to shy away from confrontation, smirked as he began his remarks. "The people have spoken," he declared, his voice cutting through the chaos, "and they have told this Parliament that they are tired of being ignored, tired of being lied to, and tired of politics as usual. That era ends today." His words triggered an uproar on the Labour side, with shouts of nonsense and dangerous lies echoing through the chamber, but Farage pressed on, accusing Labour of betraying their traditional voters, prioritising globalist agendas over British interests, and losing touch with the people they claim to represent. His speech was both a victory lap and a declaration of war against the political status quo. The scenes that followed were nothing short of extraordinary. Labour's leader was forced to respond, standing up to deliver a defensive and at times shaky rebuttal, while attempting to paint Farage as a divisive figure exploiting public anger for personal gain. The Labour leader struggled to explain away the scale of the defeat. The fact that Labour lost in a constituency they had held for decades was a glaring reminder that their connection with grassroots voters has been eroding for some time. Even some Labour backbenchers, speaking to reporters in hushed tones outside the chamber, admitted that the party's strategy had failed and that they were deeply worried about what this might mean for the next general election. The Conservative MPs, meanwhile, were caught in a strange position. Some were quietly pleased to see Labour embarrassed, but others were nervously aware that Farage's surge could just as easily eat into their own support base. The political implications of this revolt are enormous. For decades, British politics has been dominated by Labour and the Conservatives, with smaller parties struggling to make a lasting impact in the Commons. Farage's success in breaking through that barrier in such a dramatic fashion could inspire similar movements across the country, changing the way elections are fought and won. Beyond the Westminster bubble, the reaction from the public has been just as intense. Social media exploded within minutes of the news breaking, with hashtags related to Farage's victory trending nationwide. Supporters hailed it as a triumph for democracy and a long overdue rejection of out-of-touch politicians, while critics warned that the rise of populist politics could lead to dangerous divisions within the country. Talk radio shows were flooded with callers expressing everything from elation to deep concern, reflecting the polarised nature of British politics today. In pubs, workplaces, and high streets, people debated what this means for the country and whether Farage can deliver on the promises that propelled him to victory. The scale of this revolt cannot be underestimated. It's not just that Farage won, it's how he won. He mobilised voters who had given up on the system. He drew support from demographics that rarely turn out in large numbers. And he did it all while facing relentless attacks from the media and political opponents. This is not the kind of momentum that disappears overnight. And if Labour and the Conservatives fail to take it seriously, they could find themselves facing even greater losses in the future. In many ways, this feels like the beginning of a much larger shift, one that could eventually lead to a complete reshaping of Britain's political landscape. For now, the Commons remains on edge, with MPs on all sides trying to process what just happened. Farage has promised that this is only the start, vowing to push forward with a legislative agenda aimed at tackling immigration, boosting economic self-sufficiency, and restoring what he calls British common sense to politics. Whether or not he can actually deliver on those promises remains to be seen, but one thing is certain, his arrival has shattered the comfortable routines of Westminster. The political establishment, used to operating within a relatively stable framework, is now dealing with an unpredictable and combative new force that thrives on confrontation and direct engagement with the public. And judging by the reaction in the Commons today, that new reality is going to make for some very turbulent political battles ahead. This historic voter revolt is more than just a headline. It's a turning point. Farage has not only secured a seat in Parliament, but also a platform to challenge the entrenched powers on their own turf. Whether you see him as a champion of the people or a dangerous disruptor, his impact is undeniable. The question now is how far this movement can go and whether Britain is truly ready for the kind of political transformation that Farage is promising. One thing is for sure, after what happened in the Commons today, British politics will never be quite the same again. If you found this update informative, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more breaking political news and in-depth analysis, because the story of this revolt is only just beginning.